You're at Lake Rant, where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one of these by being one of those. This one is for Scott Goldsberry, who says, please rant about Innuendo Studios video, The Card Says Moops. You've said some things in the recent Whirling Dervish episodes that lead me to believe that you might have a problem with it. Well, I watched this video. I certainly have a number of problems with it. It was overall a weird video. And I'm going to come at this from the perspective, I am not right-wing nor left-wing. I have expressed opinions leaning in either direction many times on the internet and been attacked by both groups. I've definitely dealt with a lot of people on everywhere on the political spectrum giving me shit for my opinions. And so much of what Innuendo Studios is like insisting is more prominent on the right or is like distinctly right-wing ideologies is stuff that I have very much seen from people on the left. Very much seen liberals adopt many of the same strategies, talking styles. I understand why, if you are Innuendo Studios and you are in a situation where you're surrounded probably by pretty reasonable liberals all having conversations about what they believe in, and you're a part of a community and you surround yourself with people who are like that, and everyone who's attacking you is from the other side, other side extremists, then you would perceive it as, why is the other side so angry and so like this, whereas my team seems to be all good people. But like, if you were to go ahead and start spouting, radical conservative beliefs in a public space such as that, I promise you will get attacked by liberals who are just as pissed off. I don't think he's entirely wrong to say that liberals are less likely to, they're more likely to cry and run away, as he kind of put it, whereas people on the right might be more aggressive, but it's definitely not uniform. It's definitely not like either side is...
On what basis do you make that claim?
What do you mean?
I think people on either side can be just as extremist and just
No,
as
they
violent.
can. I did not say they couldn't.
I don't know.
Why are you interjecting? This is my rant.
I'm sorry.
I didn't say anything about the other side not being capable of the same level. I said they were less likely, like, the average liberal kid is going to fucking cry and piss their pants if you scream at them, whereas a conservative might not be as likely to...
It depends on who they're around.
Be a pissy baby,
If you do it in public, it depends on who they're around.
Sure.
I think there's a chilling
with
effect.
their friends. Well, I'm talking about public as in on the internet. Publicly on the internet.
It depends on which forum they're on and which platform. If they're on 4chan, like he was talking about in the video, and they're anonymous, there'd be no reason for them to...
I would say anybody on 4chan, regardless of their political alignment, is going to come at you equally hard. And like this idea that 4chan is just like a hotbed of only... conservative thought is ridiculous, because if you've been on 4chan, you know that's not the case. Like, yes, it's a place where you will see a lot more edgy, I hate also this like idea of like right versus left, because there's such a huge spectrum of who is on those sides, and like people on the left like him will sort of insinuate that if you are overall conservative, then you're throwing your hat in with like these white nationalists and shit, which I don't think the average conservative wants anything to do with, They might think it's funny that they do, trigger the libs, as they say. I've seen tons of liberals who are into doing the same thing to conservatives. In fact, the top comment on this video is a guy saying that he used to be someone who was like all about triggering the conservatives. So like, that idea is asinine to me. It's like, yes, you will see more extreme opinions on 4chan, especially more extreme right opinions than you would commonly see, because the people who have those opinions are normally driven out of discourse. They're ordinarily banned from websites. Their accounts are blocked. And, I've made it clear before that I am all for the open, free expression of ideas. And this was the weirdest part of the video, was where he talks about the marketplace of ideas on 4chan. He seems to think it comes to a conclusion. That was what the weirdest part was. The marketplace of ideas on 4chan never comes to a conclusion. Its purpose is not for anything to arise as a dominant philosophy. That does not happen. He provides this daft example of the community concluding that Cowboy Bebop is better than Eva, as if that would ever be set in stone. It would be argued about every day forever. That would be the joke, is that there is no conclusion. That is the purpose of 4chan. That's the purpose of this fire. And, like, his idea of the Schrodinger's douchebag, which I do think is funny, and, like, there's stuff in this video I agree with about the mentality of why people argue the way they do. Some of the stuff about how people, I definitely think there's a lot of people who don't really have an ideology that they really believe in, but they have one that they lean towards, and they will argue for more extreme standpoints than they really give a shit about just to participate in a side. And then will change the goalposts and alter their argument as the conversation persists because they just want to win this particular encounter because, yeah, they do not care. And he makes that point, like, yeah, they don't care, and I don't know why he thinks that's a bad thing. I don't know if that's just to help, people to argue, which I do think, I encourage you, if you're on the internet arguing with somebody, get it yourself into the mindset that everybody on the internet, all of these arguments are pointless. None of these have consequences. They are all arguments that are all in self-interest, no matter what side you're on. This is all arguing out of wanting your ideology to be prevalent, but also wanting yourself to feel good for having won in an argument on the internet. If you really are concerned about, like, changing people's minds, you don't do that through arguing on social media. That's not how it transpires. You become a member of a community and you communicate with people, like, in a more intimate setting where you are not anonymous strangers having an argument for no fucking reason. That kind of shit is it's just there for people to sate their egos by arguing with each other and seeing who can outlast the other. And it doesn't amount to anything because whoever loses just walks away. They don't give a shit anymore. But the point of 4chan is the fact that no opinion matters, that every opinion possible is represented. What is the beauty of 4chan is that you can predictably see a thread, click on it, and immediately read every response that you could have imagined. Like, I will predict, I'll see a thread and I'll think, okay, someone might say, like, what did you all think of this show? The first two comments are very likely going to be, it's complete dog shit and it's the best show of the year. And I don't even know if either of those people are being serious. They're just trying to put every possible argument down. And then as the thread goes on, we see where people fall. We see which sides people are going to argue about. But you have an understanding that most of these arguments are terrible and stupid. The whole point is that you get down to a bedrock where people have to start justifying their opinions as the thread goes on. You try to see eventually which argument can be made stronger. And because it's anonymous, the argument has to stand entirely on its own. That is the purpose of the website. If you actually use and understand 4chan, then you know that it's never about reaching a conclusion, it's just about hashing out possible arguments. It's not about having an opinion, it's about arguing opinions and seeing who can argue better. And there is no winner because you don't have a name. The argument itself is what has to win. That's the appeal of it. You go in and you can read every conceivable thought on this thing that anybody could have, regardless of whether anybody even does have it. There is no marketplace. There is no winner. There is no eventual victory. There is no moment when the board declares Cowboy Bebop better than Eva and that's now officially set in stone. That would never happen. The point of it is to have no solid identity, to have no end result, to always be this ongoing, endless battle of ideas. So maybe it's not even fair to call it the marketplace of ideas, but the war of ideas. The point of it is to be an endless war of ideas that never has resolution. Because no matter how good your argument might be, nobody has to accept it. Nobody has to say that your logic was better. Nobody has to say that whatever the consensus majority said was true. That's why the argument can go on. The point of 4chan is not to reach a consensus, and it's definitely not about towing the consensus. What kind of fucking cuck do you have to be to decide that you agree with whatever that you're gonna say, like, oh, well, they all voted on it, so I guess it's true. Like, that is the opposite of the mentality of people on there. So everything he had to say about 4chan I thought was very strange, very, like, outside observation of somebody who's trying to figure out why all this alt-right shit that they can't imagine existing in a place that makes sense, you know, like, they can't fathom how this could just be fun for people, how this could be, you know, like, yes, there are people who are, like, you know, using it as a hotbed to spread their political opinions to other people, to try to radicalize and bring people to other places. That happens everywhere. That's everywhere on the internet, is people trying to do that. The internet is full of people trying to slowly pull people over to their sides. I see liberal people doing this sort of recruitment everywhere. In my comment sections on Twitter, there are constantly people saying, like, hey, can I talk to you about this thing that, let's hash out this idea further. Oh, come to my Discord. Come to the Discord of ContraPoints or Vaush, and let's hash out these left-wing ideals, and I'll convert you over to my side. And I understand why, from a leftist perspective, you are thinking, well, those are the good guys doing good work. But the other people on the other side also believe themselves to be just. They believe their ideas are correct. So, like, it's easy to look at it as like, oh, these evil people are dragging people to an evil ideology, but they think the same thing about you. And I know that I don't agree with far-flung extremes on either side of the spectrum. I definitely agree more in general with liberals and leftists than I do with, like, the far right, because a lot of the really far right extreme beliefs, again, I don't even think it's fair to ascribe them to the right, because they're, like, really, like, a totally other sect. Like, what we consider far left beliefs, I think, permeate much more strongly through the left side of the political spectrum than, you know, extreme right-wing's beliefs do. But, you know, it's like, to just, like, out of pocket demonize all ideas of the right because it's the party that also includes these people, you know, is very strange to me. The way that this video is written is like, I mean, I know that it is basically written for people on the left to identify argumentation styles of people on the right, but it could not be trying less hard to reach across the aisle at all. It could not be trying less hard to not piss off, you know, any potential, even slightly right-leaning person who's going to see it. And, I don't know why he would choose to write it in such an insular, self-congratulatory way, because it just comes off really obnoxious. And also just, like, so many of the things, again, that he argues for. Like, there's a point in the video where he says, now I know you're about to say the left does the same thing, but that's dodging the question. And it's like, okay, well, let's just pose that same question to the left then, because they do the same thing. Like, why are we ignoring that fact? Why frame it this way? Why not just frame this as a general thing people do? Because they do. You know, even if it had just been a snide comment that the right does it a little more, I might not necessarily disagree with that. But again, to, like, paint this as like a this is how the right is, it's like, it's just dishonest to me, disingenuous. So yeah, it was a frustrating video. You know, I like Innuendo Studios. All of his stuff on gaming, I think, is great. And his older video about Gamergate, I thought, did somewhat of a better job of getting, like, he tries to do this thing where he gets into the heads of the people that he disagrees with and tries to do sort of a personality profile or a, you know, or to, like, just try to ascribe, like, a psychological reasoning to why they're acting the way they are. And I think that a lot of what he's saying is accurate to some people, but he jumbles such a broad swath of people all into it. He's making it out like anybody who would have these talking points would all fall into this category, or that one person would have each of these different traits that are actually disparate, you know, that he's talking about a bunch of different people but ascribing the same traits to them, or making it seem like these traits are much more pervasive. And I wish it was just like, I wish he didn't do that, you know? I wish it wasn't like, oh, this is how people on the right are. It's like, no, this is how some people are. This is this idea of like people trying on ideologies like sunglasses or whatever. Yeah, some people are like that. Some people just feel strongly about these things and argue this way also. You know, it's like, why would you try to make it out like everybody who argues that way is automatically this personality type? I don't know. Again, lots of things I agree with if they were not applied in such a broad and uncoordinated way. But the way he presents it, just overall frustrating.